Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Bikini in the Brain. And we are here with the well-traveled, the lovely Ashley Kaltwasser.
Hi. Did you guys miss me? Do you
I
guys even remember who I am?
I missed you.
It's been a long time since I've been in this podcast chair. It's been 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I forgot my schedule. I forgot what time we start this thing. I tried to fill last week and couldn't fill last week. It's a
Tough.
mess when you're not here, Ashley.
It's tough.
1 week, I can figure it out. But 2 weeks is like my whole world is all messed up. I was like, I'll do one. Did one with Celeste. It was great. Went really well. And I was like, the next week I could just do one by myself. No problem. It's hard to come up with the topic and just talk for like 30 minutes. You really need someone, you know?
It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. It really is.
So-
but hey, we're back. We're back to normal for the time being until probably like end of October.
All right.
I'm excited.
Go through any of these podcast withdrawals.
Yes. No, but for now we're good.
Yes.
I'll be here on Mondays.
We had a few people DM me. They were like, hey, are you guys like, they so instantly think it's done. They're like, you guys gonna be doing any more podcasts?
Well, to be fair, you promised that you would still do the podcast. Adam, you need to stop doing that. Don't make promises you can't keep.
Yeah. I thought I could keep that one. And because I was like, I'll just get someone to do it with me. And I DM'd a couple people. It's like, I'll just DM a couple people, and just didn't get it. They didn't get back to me in time, or like they couldn't do it on Monday. And it was like, you need like 3 weeks to schedule. I'm just like that. Oh, what day is it? I'll be free. I'll just do it that day. But most people aren't like that. Most people are like, need a schedule. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, we're back.
Well, anyway, we're back. Yes, we are. And I just got back from my trip last week from Japan. I got a Japan hat.
Right look at that.
But yeah, jet lag. Whew, it's tough, but I'm getting over it. Back to training. I took about 5 days off from the gym completely just to, fall back into my routine, my sleep routine and everything, get everything sorted. I was behind on a lot of things because I was gone. I was gone for 2 weeks. I went to Hawaii for a week, and then I went to Japan for a week. So it's been a hot minute.
You are well traveled. Can we talk about Ashley Kaltwasser winning number 49?
Yeah.
That is pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
One away from the ultimate goal. But congratulations winning Japan.
Thank you.
That show, I did a review on it. That show was a crazy show. That was a deep show. I did not realize it was going to be such a deep show. Six Olympians.
Yeah.
It's funny because sometimes people think they'll compete overseas. It's going to be easier if I compete overseas. There's not that many girls. And I'm like, dude, there's 6 Olympians, counting you, 6 Olympians at that show. Wild. Well, you don't see that at even American shows. You don't see 6 Olympians unless it's like a big show, so that was.
I think a lot of people don't realize it because they're not as familiar with like the Asian athletes, right? You're more familiar with the American athletes, but there's a whole nother world over there, and they're really good competitors. And I will say this too, just like the shows they don't happen as often over there as they do here, right? So here it's like, well, you probably got like 2 shows to pick from on any weekend, pro bikini shows in any state. If you're not ready for this one, you can do the one next week. You've got a lot of shows to choose from here in the United States. But when you go over in Asia or Europe, it's like they have maybe 2 shows a year, 2 or 3. So the girls bring their absolute best because they know that the chances are so much more limited over there than it is, here. So they definitely don't come in with anything less than their best, which is pretty incredible. So the amount of competition over there is really good, really, really good. I just don't think people notice it yet because they're not familiar with the names,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of like how masters have their kind of time of year, like July through September is kind of when all the masters do it. And this is what happens in a lot of these shows like that, where you'll do, let's say that one show is basically your Olympia. And a lot of you who are just getting done with Masters Nationals, this kind of applies to too, because they'll do the Masters show from July, the circuit, Universe, Masters Nationals, North Americans, that kind of those 3 months, 2 months. And then they'll just wait a whole year, make improvements, and come back again in July. That's what I'll generally recommend. If someone's close, I'll generally say, hey, let's just do that. Spend a whole, 9 months, 10 months getting improved and go. So, but that's how they look at it too, for their one show a year in, they have 2 shows in Japan.
Yeah.
2 shows.
But if we're looking at Asia as a whole, though, I will say they've really increased the show frequency over there. I think I've noticed a lot in China. And if you look down the Olympia qualified list, you're going to notice a lot of them are from like Korea and China and things like that, because they're really taking off there. That market has really taken off there in China. So I was so surprised to see that there were so many pro bikini shows in China this year. I was like, wow. So there's a lot of qualified girls already in like China and stuff. But when we're looking at just like a country as a whole, like Japan, I think they have like 2, just like you said. But the Masters Olympia is going to be there next year, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool for those athletes. So
Yeah.
that's really exciting. Last time it was in Romania. So I think they saw how big of a production they did it in Japan. I bet you they took note and they're like, yeah, this is where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, like remember last year's at the Japan Pro? That was such an epic stage. And I think they were very impressed by that and thought like, wow, they're capable of so much hype and a good stage. They got it all organized. So I think that's why they chose it as the Masters Olympia for next year. So
yeah. And I think their audience is really great out there too. That's a different,
yes.
the level
They're
of excitement
so
is different.
excited.
The level of excitement I see from the Japanese and Asian audience, honestly, is kind of similar to what I used to see in like old videos of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like back in the day, where it was so rare to see that everyone's losing their mind in the audience, you know. But now we're a little more used to it in America. There's just so many shows, but over there, it's like just totally different. Like, you know, so
the hype is real over there. Let's just say, and I feel so welcome all the time when I go there. As you guys know, I competed there in the Japan Pro last November, and then I just competed in the Tokyo Pro, which is not the same show, but it's the same like promoter. And then there is one at the end of this year or November again, the Japan Pro. I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll give Japan a break because after Olympia, I think I'm gonna hit some European shows. So I already have some lined up. I'm gonna do a little European tour. So I got my Asian fix. Now I got to go to Europe. So
yeah.
I mean, there's a possibility I'll still do Japan Pro in November, but probably not. I just don't want them to get too bored of me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you had fun. It's a lot of travel.
Yes,
a lot of travel.
definitely.
And so our podcast today is going to be going over, you know, competing internationally, what to expect, and, you know, all the little tricks, traveling and whatnot too. And so if you guys have questions, if you're looking at doing it, I will recommend. So I don't really go on vacations. I've never really been on like a true like week-long vacation, like in my whole life, really. Gone on a couple like 2-day things, but and then the reason is because I travel to these cool places every once in a while. And it like gets it out of my system, you know, like my favorite place that we've been is Japan. I mean, it was such a just different culture and so cool and so safe, and the food was good. And it was just like, it was really fun. So sometimes athletes will just do shows internationally just for the travel experience of it. So it's a fun, you kind of get a 2-for-1. You get a vacation and a show. And Ashley you don't get too many vacations, and you kind of don't do too much.
My vacation is competing.
Yeah.
Like I don't like to relax too much.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm traveling, I make it a big thing. I'll compete and then I'll do a little vacation afterwards. But for me, I compete so frequently, it doesn't even make sense to like, I have no desire for just going to the beach. I'd be like, I'll do this one show and then the next day I'll go to the beach.
Yeah.
I think I'm like not like if I'm on vacation, like true vacation for more than a few days, I'm gonna get bored. I'm like, all right, I just want to go home.
Yeah, 2 days is like my max. Yeah, I'm the same way. So
I think a nice little relaxation period after a show is great, but I'm not feeling to stay there a week.
I think it's a good sign that you really like what you do. You know,
I
I think that people who need vacations are probably doing jobs that they don't really love as much, and they just need time away from it to start loving it again. But it's for us, we wake up, we love our job every day. So we're blessed in that regard. We're like, yeah, kind of don't need a vacation because every day is vacation, you know? Like I woke up at 6, it's 10 or 11:30, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of finished my check-ins. What do I do the rest of the day? Like every one of my days is like a half vacation. You know, I'm in Vegas, I can go downtown, and yeah, I do think that hurts me a little bit too, being in Vegas, because there's so much to do here that I don't ever want to leave. I'm like, everywhere I go would be less than this.
Yeah.
So, but
you know, something I discovered is a lot of Americans in general don't travel as much as people from other countries, internationally anyway. And it was kind of explained to me is because like here in the United States, every state is like its own little country. You get a taste of everything. If you want the desert, you can come here. Or if you want like some neon lights and some excitement, go to the Strip. If you want some nice beaches, go to Florida or California. So every like state has its own little personality, you know, where it's like, well, we get our change of scenery. We can go to a different state a few hours away and have a little different switch up of taste of scenery and stuff. So I'm wondering if that's true or not, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, it for sure, because that's why I like going to Texas, because they have certain things, the barbecue in Texas, you
Yeah.
know, the California, like, oh, I can see my family go to the beach, you know, that type of thing. The weather, you know, Florida's a whole different. It's like Florida's like visiting like a Latin country, you know. It's like that's what it reminds me of. So I like kind of going there, you know. It's kind of like that perfect mix. So yeah, everyone has their thing.
Yeah. But you know what's really cool about this sport is just like you said, you can travel to all these different countries and truly experience it. And I've I've went to so many different countries that I never thought I would ever go to because I had a seminar there or I competed. Like some really out there countries. Like I've been to Russia, I've been to India, Finland, Germany, Brazil, Costa Rica, I've been to Romania, been to Australia, New Zealand. I'm forgetting so many because there's so many that I've been to. But the point, oh, in Sweden, the point being is like, I would have never had these opportunities if I didn't compete. And just like you said, you can actually, as an amateur, even compete at these other shows too. I mean, definitely double check you're eligible for the particular competition because sometimes I think they have restrictions on that. But um, you know, we have athletes that, you know, I just had an athlete last weekend, Samantha. She competed in Japan too.
Yeah.
So she went there just to have some fun and compete there as well. So you can make a whole experience out of it. And you know, just like we mentioned, stay a few days after for a little vacation or more if you need. But what a cool thing that is. I never thought I would ever leave Ohio, but this sport has opened me up to travel, not even just out of the state, but out of the country, which is really cool. I've learned so much and I've experienced more than most people ever will with my travel. I think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, isn't it crazy that one day you're like, oh, I'm going to do a bikini competition. The next thing you know, you have, you know, 50 stamps on your passport. I remember when we went the first time I saw your passport, when we went to the airport, I was like, this is like, I looked, I was like, this is crazy. Like how many stickers and stamps and all this. And you're like, oh yeah, that's not even like half of them because sometimes they don't even stamp you. Yeah, you've had some pretty cool life with it.
Yeah.
I think that people don't really see that too, that this is such an opportunity to do things and travel and have fun and get life experiences, and that goes with it. They just see like kind of the grind and the stage. There's so much that it could offer you. You know, who knew that would happen for you? And just one day I decided to do a bikini competition. Next thing you know, all this has happened. It's pretty crazy.
It is really cool. And I'm so lucky to be able to do this. And I definitely make the most of it. So some people wonder why I do certain shows that I do. Sometimes it's out of convenience, like show here, you know, it's like 15 minutes away from a house. Sure. But also that's one side of it. If it's convenient and it falls into my competition prep schedule, but also you'll see me do these crazy ones like in Japan or another country. So I choose my shows for different reasons. For Japan, it's for the experience. And I remember competing there last year and I got treated so well. So I just wanted to have that same experience again. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I choose the shows that I do.
Yeah.
You know?
That's cool. It looks like there's gonna be a lot more opportunities for all of you out there. So we'll go over those, different things. But even China, like you were talking about, having a show this week during the week. You know, I have a girl competing.
I think it's Hong Kong.
I think, gosh, I missed on the right. Did I say, what did I say? Did I?
China.
Oh, I have a girl. She's competing. I think it's today. It's the timing is weird. It's either like I think this is her tomorrow, so I think it's today. Yeah, for her, within a few hours, and then it's like 8 hours or something from now.
That's crazy. I have a show on a Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, it's like it's a combo like Tuesday, Wednesday show, but
crazy.
it's like I think it's Monday, Tuesday for us, like midday later. So I'm getting these check-ins like weird times, like at 5 o'clock is like her wake up time or something. So yeah, so that always makes it a little bit interesting for the coach, you know. So but yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I think you definitely take advantage of it. And also, what I've had a couple athletes do is do it with like someone on the team, like in travel, like a travel buddy. So that makes it more fun, makes it more cost effective, and a little safer for you if you're doing it by yourself. So try to find, if that's a scenario for you, it cuts the room cost down to 50%, makes it more safe. And it's funny is usually in the group of these two girls, I get two girls. Usually in that group of those two girls, one of them's like the planner, and one of them's like the more like explorer type of person. So you'll have like a schedule and all these things. And so just, it's helpful. I think everyone should take advantage of it and have fun with that. So
absolutely. So I think we should go over some like tips and everything else as far as international travel, because I get a lot of questions about that. And guys, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Do you have this on Instagram too, or just
Just on
Okay.
YouTube. Yeah.
Well, if you have any questions at international competing and travel, let me know. But I think a lot of people overthink it a bit when it comes to packing and everything. I would say, you know, with the food scenario, that's probably everyone's biggest concern is like, well, what do I do? You know, it's a long flight. And then when I land, what am I going to do about food? And, you know, just know that whatever country you're going to probably does not have the same, I guess, prep helpers as they do here. Meaning, for me, I brought a lot of like Crystal Light drink mixes, stevia, my favorite sugar-free gum, the Wrigley's 5, so good. But things like that, I brought extra because I knew that once I got to Japan, I'm probably not going to see those, or it's going to be harder to find. Now, when it comes to like your actual prep food itself, I think that definitely do your research because you might find that there is a grocery store really close to wherever you're staying. So that was the case for me. I've competed in the show before, or the November version. So I was familiar with the host hotel and I knew right across the street is a nice grocery store. I can pick up some chicken. And in the hotel rooms, it was nice because we had a kitchenette, but not every hotel will be as convenient as that. So with that being said, something that you should look into bringing is like a mini skillet if you have to cook anything. So on Amazon, I got this like mini skillet. It was like $9 or something. And it's literally just the size of my, just if you make a circle with your two fingers, right? For our audio only listeners, if you make a circle, putting your thumb to thumb, index finger to index finger, that's how big the mini skillet was. So I can take that with me wherever. Now, the good thing about that is you can not only you can heat it up, but you can actually cook from raw to solid. Okay. So you guys hear me talk about the Hot Logic Mini a lot. So the Hot Logic Mini is something different. It's like a little lunchbox that you put your container in and it'll heat up your food for you in the span of 5 to 10 minutes. That's very convenient if you only have to heat it up. But going back to what I just said, you might have to cook it like from scratch. You might have to buy the raw chicken because not every country has like nice pre-made, pre-packaged, prep-friendly chicken. They might have like deli meat chicken, but that comes with a lot of salt, you know, things like that. So you might have to cook. Now, if you're one of those people that like your tuna, like you can bring a lot of tuna packets for sure. I don't.
Yeah.
So I wish I did like tuna, but I don't. So I always just make sure to bring like a cooker with me if I have to cook it from raw. Now, I can also maybe get away with bringing some prep food. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. You're not supposed to. So just keep that in mind. If anything, I would say put it in your check-in luggage bag. And I see some athletes will do this. Some of them don't want to take the risk because I do think there's a fine in certain countries. So just check the regulations on that. I don't want to tell you guys to do something illegal. You know what I mean? But you will have to freeze it, obviously, pack it in nice and tight in your little lunchbox or whatever. Pack it with extra. You know what I like to do? I actually like to freeze water bottles and put them in there instead of ice packs because I can drink the water bottles when I'm finished with it, and it's
Okay.
nice. Like, oh, I got a little water beverage. You know, freeze your vegetables, everything. Freeze as much as you can. And just pack it all in your checked-in luggage, and then I would also, I like to wrap it in a bag too in case of the condensation kind of starts to get my other things wet. But that's something you can look into as well. But just know that any country you go to probably won't have the same things as you're looking for here in the United States. Here, we're very spoiled.
Yeah.
We can go to
I've realized
Walmart.
this. Yeah.
Walmart, oh, I need some Crystal Light packs. Oh, I need some flavored water or this and this and this. In other countries, it's not really like that, or they have their own kind of versions of things. But just be prepared with the food. You know, just don't assume that there's always going to be that certain food you're looking for. And the more non-perishable items you can bring, the better. Like the just in cases, meaning like for me, I bring like low sugar beef jerky just in case, I can't access meat for a period of time, or protein. Protein seems to be the hardest to pack, but things like that, or they make even like freeze dried veggies now, or things that pack nicely in your check-in but won't spoil. So sometimes you got to do a little more planning than what you would expect. But, you know, just keep in mind, even if you have to go to those like things like beef jerky, although not ideal, better than nothing, just be careful with the sodium content.
Yeah, and another tip, a couple of tips that I do or Kimber does. I bought her one of those. I guess it's like a vacuum sealer is what
Mhm.
it's called. So you can put a lot of there's like different size bags. You can put a lot of like chicken in there, especially if it's
Yeah.
ground chicken. It takes up and it just and then you freeze it and it turns into like its own ice bag. Just like you were saying, freeze things. That one turns into like its own ice pack. It's like hard as rock. It's real thin. You can put it right in with your other foods and it keeps other foods cold. And by the time you land, it's starting to thaw a little bit, so you can cook it at that point. And then another one that you were talking about too, which is actually was funny, is it was Taryn did this. She had it's like a mini air fryer, which was
Yeah.
same thing, like single serving size, and it's
Mhm.
like this big. It's tiny. It takes up more space than what your thing
Yeah.
takes up. But if you like air fried stuff, they do have mini air fryers on Amazon. And it's funny because when she was doing it, everyone was buying one because she posted it and everyone was like losing their mind about it. Because I thought so too. I was like, what is this? This is so crazy. It's like mini air fryer. It's tiny. And yeah, it's single serving size of chickens and whatnot, and it makes it a lot easier. One of the tips that I find too, now internationally, I do have a hard time. I had a hard time in Europe. Europe, I
Mhm.
always have a harder time. I feel like the content of their food is not the same as our content of food. You get when you go there, it's like it seems to be higher in fat, like in their meats. Wasn't as many like high protein options. Like you go to a restaurant, you get like a lot less protein than you do here. Here you get like a big old slab of beef, like everything's smaller over there. Their drinks, everything, you get a large, it's like a small over here type of thing. So just getting used to that. So in America, whenever we travel to a different state, my easy thing when I can't find anything is like let's say there's not a grocery store, I'll look for a Chinese food place and they always do steamed chicken and veggies. Like that's
Mhm.
always an option at a Chinese food place.
With no sauce. Ask for no
Yeah,
sauce.
no sauce, nothing. It's just steamed. Like they just steam it and they give it to you. It's like very normal. Or going to a grocery store and just grabbing a full grilled rotisserie, chicken. But I don't run into that so much internationally. It's not so easy.
Yes.
I don't know of any place I've seen that, like just
Yes.
buying a full chicken. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And it seems like in other countries they're less willing to modify things too.
Mhm.
So, for example, what we were just talking about, oh, you always get steamed veggies, rice, and steamed chicken, and you can ask for no sauce over here, but over there, over some other places, they might be like, it's basically you get what you get,
Yeah.
So I do notice that just from ordering other foods, we're way more like in America, like accommodating, like, oh, you don't sauce on the side? Okay. You know, tomatoes? Okay. Yep, got it. Whereas other places are just like, get you is how we make it.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind too. And also the nutrition labels are going to be so different in the States versus the other. You got to learn how to do some math
Yeah.
because they do it by this like 100
Yeah, the
grams
100-gram
per
thing.
100 grams, but there could be like 170 grams total in the package. Now, listen, hear me out. America, we have funny ways to do our metric system, but one thing we got right is those nutrition labels because we don't have to do the math like that.
Yeah.
It'll say like on your nutrition label, like you get a little bag of something, it'll say servings per container 4. And then other places, it's like you got to bring out your calculator
Yeah.
and do some division. It's like,
I got screwed in Japan that winter. Remember? Yeah, that was funny. That was still the highest. I think that's the highest unknown calories I've ever had for like 3 days in a row, too. You had to show me the math on that. But you know what's crazy is we have the nutrition labels best. We know exactly what we're eating, but we're like the fattest people. It's like, so it works for people like us, but it doesn't work as a society a whole, right? But yeah, I was in Japan and I remember I was drinking those chocolate coffees. They were like flavored coffees. And they're in this little glass bottle. And I remember I loved them. I was like, they're only 50 calories a piece. It was like 45 or something calories a piece. And I was drinking them 2 a day, 3 a day, like because they're 50 calories. What do I care? It was like, I was walking around a lot. And then Ashley goes, it's per 100, it was milliliters, I think, per
yeah,
100 milliliters or whatever it was. So it was this little bottle, but it was like 5 servings in the bottle. So it was like 250 calories of like sugars the whole time.
yeah.
I was drinking like 3 of those a day for like 3-4 days. And then I was I was like, that's the one
Aw.
thing I really love. Yeah, but I was happy. I learned, that was how I learned the conversion. So yeah, we definitely have an advantage in terms of the labels in terms of the nutritional
Yeah.
things for people out here.
Yeah, our ways to measure things are whack though, apparently. But one thing we got right is the label. So go USA. Jackie pointed out a great point here.
Oh,
She said,
yes.
make sure you bring the electrical plug adapters for your appliances. Yes, yes, and yes, that is correct. Every country might have a little different plug insert design. So I have to get a different one for Japan, different one for different European countries. So do your research on that. You don't want to be stuck being like, oh, I got my nice little skillet, but got no plug
Yeah.
adapter for it. So
It's frantic-y when you get there like that. So if you did go to another country and you forgot that, a lot of times at the hotel, they'll have them, but not all the time. Not every
don't
time.
assume they will.
Yeah, because if there's a lot of Americans visiting that day, you're probably not getting one, So it's kind of like having a refrigerator at a busy show. You're 50-50 to get a refrigerator in your room if it doesn't naturally come with one. So yeah, you should just have one. But worst case scenario, try to go to the hotel lobby.
Yep.
So what other tips do you think we should cover for traveling international? You know what? I just thought of one. Sorry to cut you off. You taught me this one, but it was always bring your shoes and your suit and all that with your carry-on
Oh
too.
yes, definitely. Always. You never know that. I mean, you never know it can get lost in a check-in. So I bring that with me all the time on the plane and everything. One thing I do want to also speak lightly on is your plane food as well, depending on how long the travel is. Like, no big deal if it's like 3 hours, but if your travel's like 10 hours or something, you're gonna have to eat a few meals in between. So I like to I'll bring a room temp meal and then I'll bring a frozen meal so that by the time I'm ready for my frozen meal, it's been thawed. But yeah, so you can do that, or you can order an airport salad for $26, and pick off everything but the chicken. And I always bring little dressing and condiment packets, like little individual sizes. You can get them on Amazon. But I bought like a whole box of like fat-free Italian craft dressing, and I'm still going through it. But that's nice to know because it's like no matter what I get, I can get a salad or whatever. I know, for the most part, how much calories are in it, or I can get a good estimate, because the thing is with salads and condiments in general, that can a lot of times be the most calorie dense part of the whole meal. And it's like, well, so at least I have a little more control over that. And if all else fails, I can get like an airport salad and just pick off extra cheese that I don't need or whatever and just use my dressing. But yeah, that's the way I like to do that. And then I like to bring some non-perishable snacks as well. Depending on how close you are to a show, I like to bring those wild chips. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you got me.
They're like chicken breast chips. Now, are they like the best prep food? No, but hey, it's better than whatever they're giving you for breakfast on the plane. You know what I mean? Because at least you know how much is in there, and you can control the calorie amount. Whereas like sometimes they give you these nice international breakfasts on the plane, but it's like you don't know what's in it, you don't have the calories, and depending on how close you are to show, I mean, err on the side of caution. Like if you're on your way back from a show, will be much different from your on the way there to the show when it comes to the diet, right? So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think one other thing to keep in mind is digestion when you're traveling. That's probably the biggest thing that people run into is issues with their digestion when traveling. So bring extra supplements to make up for it. You're probably not going to get as many veggies. You're probably not going to get as much fiber. So I always have people, hey, if you're going to go, bring some extra psyllium husk, digestive enzyme, probiotics, whatever it is your normal things are that you're not going to get out there. Because digestion will surprisingly sneak up on you. I have people that are like, yeah, I was traveling for 5 days wherever, and I like haven't gone to the bathroom since, like that type of thing. So I'm a fan of psyllium husk. Other people use different things. Psyllium husk, I think, is the go-to. I think it's like one of the more natural ways of getting fibers in. So yeah, make sure that is one that is always overlooked, but pack it just in case, as like a just in caser.
Absolutely. And stay hydrated, especially on the plane too. So those little auto refillers at the fountains, I always bring a empty, like 2 liter, like emptied out, that had Diet Coke in it from like the previous week. I'll bring that whole thing with me. I'll go ahead and put like a little Propel or Crystal Light packet in there, so it's all ready to go, and I'll just fill it up at the fountain. So sometimes I'll do that, and then I'll also bring a few other empty water bottles with me just so that I can fill up if needed. It's always better to have too much hydration than not enough on a plane, especially. So, and then I always sit in the aisle because I'm gonna have to pee a lot. So, aisle's the way to go.
Yeah, you're always an aisle sitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
And then also we should. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to talk about working out while you're traveling, and we went over some of these tips on our just regular travel tips, staying fit while traveling, but of course it'll apply to this as well, because if you're going international, I'm going to assume you're traveling, right? So when it comes to working out, do your research if there's a gym close to your hotel. opt for that. But always bring resistance bands just in case, because it might be a situation where it's like you land and then you already got to go do something. Even just a little pump workout with the resistance bands is better than nothing. And if you're just doing it for a few days, you shouldn't see any detriment to your physique necessarily. So always to be prepared, better to be prepared with that. And then even like when it comes to cardio, you know what I did in Hawaii, because it was so nice out. I just ran for my cardio in the morning. So I didn't even need to go to the gym for cardio. Just use the outdoors, the good old outdoors, to get in some cardio.
That's great. That's awesome. I think especially in Hawaii, man, running on the beach in Hawaii. Oh, that's nice.
I wasn't on the beach. I was in the neighborhood, but it was just as pretty.
Yeah,
with the mountains and everything.
That's cool. You remember? Did you go to that place again? It looked like you went to some really green place that we went to that one time.
No, everything's green in Hawaii.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay,
almost everything.
Yeah, because I was like, was she at that the place where they did the dinosaur filming? We went.
Oh yeah. Oh, that one. Yes. Yeah. I went there again.
Oh, you did. Okay, so I saw. Okay, cool. Yeah, that place is so beautiful.
Ranch.
Yeah. You know, last time we went, it was like misty and foggy. Did you get to see the whole thing this time?
Yeah. So it wasn't rainy as it was last time, but it was really dirty, and yeah, everyone felt so gross after.
Yeah,
like covered with dirt. I don't know if I'll do that again. The more I do that, the more I realize I'm such a girly girl, and I'm just like.
Yeah,
I just want to stay clean.
That was pretty bad. The last time we were full of mud. I mean, we were muddy last time. That was
This time it was just dirt and dust.
Okay.
But it was still, I was like, ew, I feel gross.
Yeah, we should tell. What is it? Do you know what it's called?
Kahlua Ranch.
Kahlua Ranch. Okay, Kahlua. If you're in, that is a one-time in life experience, at least for everyone who goes to Hawaii. That place is beautiful. It's where they filmed.
Can't say I recommend it, but
yeah, it's muddy, it's dirty, but it was beautiful. It was beautiful. If
you're into that, I'm not. I gave it 2 chances. I'm not into it. Yeah, I'm not. I'm really not.
That's funny.
Nope.
So, but it was also with the travel too. One of my favorite things. It's still one of my favorite things. I've just done it so much. I think I've kind of gone to all them for the most part. But one of my favorite things while traveling is going and finding the cool gyms. You know, I'm a gym connoisseur. You're not so much a gym connoisseur,
right?
But I love, you know, if I'm going somewhere, I'll like look up where the best gyms are. I'll Google where's the best like bodybuilding gyms are. And I've gotten to see some really cool places with some serious history behind them too. And you'll find them like in these obscure places. I've walked into some really weird, like kind of hole in the wall places, but it was where, you know, this Mr. Olympia trained or whatever, you know, so you walk in and you just know like the history is there. Just cool to say that you went there. So something I would always recommend doing. I used to do this thing called gymcationing, where I'd go for like the weekend to this cool area where we'd eat the local food and go to the local gym and work out a whole bunch and come back. It was kind of like my boy, but I'd also always like do seminars and stuff like that. So I'd always get to like make it a work trip. Mm-hmm. But something that'd be fun if you're out there doing it, you know, try to go to those international gyms and look them up, have fun and make the most of it.
Absolutely. Another thing to keep in mind is actually the climate. If you're competing, you definitely pay attention to climate. And I will be honest with you, Adam, you're not going to believe what I'm about to say. Tokyo was hotter than Vegas.
No way.
Mm-hmm. Well, more miserable.
Yeah.
So technically it was like a 90 degrees, but it was so humid. It was unreal. Like I thought when I went to Hawaii, I'm like, this is the most humid. It's not going to get worse than this. When I went to Tokyo, I went outside and I was like, not drenched in sweat, drenched in like humidity. Wow. I felt like sticky the minute I stepped outside. The air was so heavy that it made it feel hotter than Vegas at 115 here.
That's crazy.
It was just the humidity was insane. So with that being said, I was lucky that I at least came from a somewhat humid climate from being in Hawaii for a week. But imagine me coming just from Vegas to right to Japan being that humid, which I wasn't expecting Japan to be that humid. But all that to say, I would feel like I would probably be soaking up some water in that scenario, coming from super dry to super humid. So if you're in a scenario like this, I just want you guys to be aware. You might have to come a few days earlier so you can acclimate to dry versus humid or humid versus dry, because it also could happen in the opposite. You can come from Japan and then vacation in Las Vegas. You're going to dry out. And if you're about to compete, like our Olympians that are coming from like very humid climates and that are coming in like 2 days before Olympia, you're going to probably feel like you're dried out too much. You might get overly lean. So just something to keep in mind where you're going to. And with that being said, an additional element is your tan as well, because in humid climates, your tan is not going to soak in and stain as well as it will here. So I would suggest, even if you need to do like an extra base coat yourself the night before your first coat, and then rinse that off for your base coat, just to kind of dry your skin out a little bit and give it a little head start. That might be wise, because yeah, even in Japan, I could tell like my tan was not,
Yeah, like sits on
it
top of
just
you.
sits and it
Yeah.
doesn't like absorb, and it like, you could tell too, because it's like you would touch your skin, it would kind of come off with it. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize, but it is a factor.
Yeah. And as far as the going from humid to dry, that's what happened. Once we were talking about one time where that happened with Elizabeth, because she lives on a little island and it's super humid there. She came here and it was just like we couldn't feed her enough. I remember that was like, I think that was the most I fed someone, and she was in perfect shape when she left the island. And it was just like, man, we can't. She still looked fine. She still did okay. She's got a first call out, but it was like, man, she was just like just eating food. It was crazy how much food it was. I think that was one of the times where I was like, just eat a jar of peanut butter, like just eat it, just keep going. So yeah, it can work in reverse, and it goes the other way too, which is scary. The other way is a little bit more scary because you can't really do anything about it. It's like you should have just been there a little bit earlier. If it happens, it happens. There's not too much you can do. Cutting water like day of the show, maybe tapering down the day before the show. Hopefully that'll help, and you don't flatten out because of it. But you're playing with fire there when you're doing stuff like that. So
Absolutely. I think another thing that we need to make a point of is, in some of these international shows, don't expect it to be as how do I say? This doesn't apply to any specific show, but you might find that in America everything's all together and convenient. Like, oh, this is the host hotel, which is also the venue, which is also the tanning. A lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times that's not the case overseas. A lot of times it's like, oh, you got to go here for the tanning, and then the venue's here, and then the host hotel's here. They're all in 3 different places. So it can be a little less I guess, together. But I always say you got to come prepared. Like, expect the unexpected, especially overseas, and you just got to go with the flow. Just go with the flow. Sometimes it'll be a scenario where it's like, oh, you're waiting. You already took a taxi to the venue, so you have to stay there. But they also pushed your time back 2 hours. Then you might have to be like, well, I guess I got to wait for 2 hours. You just got to be prepared to come with extra pump up food or anything else that might hold you over, but don't expect it to be as like cut and dry as it is here. And again, I'm not referring to anyone in particular, any show in particular, but just in my experience, it doesn't seem to be as all like clustered together as it is here in the States for whatever reason, maybe due to hotel regulations or something else. I'm not sure. But that can be a thing.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say, like as a coach for the athletes, because I do run into this not too often, but it'll happen every once in a while. I'll have an athlete who maybe they're getting very excited that we're very big, they're a planner. And so when Monday comes around for peak week, I'll issue their peak week on whatever their last check-in before, usually on Friday before the Monday peak week starts. And then they have, their carb load day. Let's say it's Thursday and Friday for them. And I'll say, here's basically going to be your carb load day. Well, that, just so you guys know, that's always going to be like an estimated carb load day. It could change. I want you to check in, Wednesday to double check that Thursday will be right. And then Thursday morning, just to double check that Thursday will be right. The problem is sometimes people will get that peak week on like Friday or something, they're like, oh, and they plan out all their meals, and then they start adding all their fats to like their food and adding all their carbs and Tupperware and all that. And so that now they're like, oh, well, I only brought this. I didn't bring anything else. I already made it. And I'm like, this is like, I can't see into the future. I don't know what you're going to eat, how you're going to respond until you start eating it. We don't know until you're depleted down, until you're starting to take in all these carbs. So I would say keep them all separate. I know it's kind of more of a pain, but the coaches are going to be changing things depending on how you're responding and how you're looking. So I've had it happen a couple of times. I'm like, well, I already made all that. I'm like, yeah, I don't know why you did. Like, there's no way I would know what you're going to be eating on Thursday and Friday entirely on Monday. There's no way I would fully know that. I got an estimate. I kind of know, but everyone's going to be a little bit different with that. Unless you worked with someone like, 100 times or something, then it's a little different. But just so you guys know, when your coaches give you your peak week, usually they'll give it to you early, so you kind of have the idea, but it will change like day by day. So especially if you're doing like liquid fats, like oils, don't mix them in your rice or anything. Just keep it separate to make it easier for you.
Mm-hmm. So. Another thing that we can talk about too is sometimes competing internationally comes with a little bit of a language barrier. And I will say this last show was the biggest language barrier experience, believe it or not. So when I did the Japan Pro in November, It was, I want to say 50-50 English, Japanese, as far as like the call outs and the MC guy. But for this one, there was only a few English speakers. So it was mostly in Japanese. There was some in South Korean and China too. But I had to get like a translator from the meeting to tell me what they were talking about. And then came the show day. So the head judge was American. So thankfully I was able to understand, like, all right, face the back, face forward. And I'm pretty sure all call outs will be in English, no matter who the judge is. So I think you're good there. But here's where I got really nervous is when they were doing the awards and stuff. I really had to pay attention to what was going on. For one, I definitely misunderstood because this was like a little mistake that I made. They told us to go off the right side of the stage, and I started going off the left until they corrected me because I couldn't understand. But that's very minor. Anyway, when they were doing the awards, like I could see, like, okay, that must be fifth place because they were doing it in Japanese. And then they got down to two girls, which is me and the other girl, the second place girl. And they brought us to the center. And I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be difficult because everything that the MC is saying is in Japanese. I don't want to look foolish. And like, I don't want to look foolish if I didn't win and I pretended like, oh, wow, yeah. I didn't want to look foolish. But then also, I didn't want to look ungrateful if I did win. And I'm just like, oh, all right, cool. So I was like stuck, like, I don't know.
That's a tricky spot.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't want to sound ungrateful, and I don't want to sound like if I didn't win, I don't want to sound like I did win, and like I'd be silly. So I was like really concerned.
That's a tough
and they were
spot.
like talking and talking, and I'm like, oh great. Because some shows they do like runner up is and then the champion, and sometimes they go right to the winner is, right? So I didn't know how they were going to do it, if they're going to go fifth, fourth, third, second, first, or if they were just going to go bring out us two and just announcing the winner. So I was not sure. So I was like, let me just look at this big jumbotron because I think that's going to be more telling. They would like put the camera probably on the winner. But thankfully, I was looking at the jumbotron, but they said one word that I understood before my name was called. They said, champion. And then they did this very long pause, which I hate that long pause they do. I hate it so much. It was like 6 seconds, and they purposely do that so that the audience it's just like crickets. They're like, champion, pause. You could hear people breathing, and I'm just like, just get it over with. If I won, tell me now. But if I didn't, just get it over with. So they said champion, long pause, and then my name. And then I saw on the jumbotron, I looked up and my face was on it. I'm like, okay, I think that means I win. I think I'm pretty certain. And I was like, yay, I won. So that's something that you'll have to to navigate is the language barrier. And I know how it feels sometimes now that these other athletes that come here to compete that aren't as familiar with English, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is how they feel.
Yeah.
Like they're just like uncertain. Like, and that's why sometimes you'll see too, even at the Olympia, you'll see like the head judge do a call out and then they'll say, go to the back, and you'll see that one girl that's still standing like forward facing. It's probably because she doesn't understand, which I can relate to now. So
yeah, especially the numbers is always one too. They don't understand the numbers, which understanding like to us is like, yeah, just 270. Why didn't you remember that? But when you don't, like in Japanese, if someone tells you 270, it'd be hard to remember that, especially in live time,
Yes.
So yeah, you see that a lot at these big shows. The Olympia, you always see it.
Yes.
Something,
You'll see that one girl that didn't understand. So it's not that they didn't hear, they're stupid. No, that's not the case. They probably just didn't understand. So have a little grace with that. Okay. Thank you.
So any questions you guys have, now would be a good time if you want to throw them in on YouTube. We're watching on YouTube or actually on Facebook too. Any questions, we're happy to answer them. But
thanks for the congratulations. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty crazy actually.
Yeah, like feedback was good. Physique was great, not much to fix on the physique anyway. So that's good news to hear. Came in a bit full for this one.
Yeah. There's been some talk about your fullness around the corners around
this is the tricky part, guys. I think a lot of people on the outside looking in was like, well, this is great, you look full, why wouldn't you just always look like that? And it's the dilemma is some judges love it, some don't. So it's a kind of like should we risk it and come in that full for Olympia? Because I do feel like that's more of a full physique. That's like the top 5 physiques are very full like that. Or should I just go back to my super tight look that's more predictable and I guess safer?
Yeah.
You know, that's the tricky part.
I've been telling Ashley, it's like, well, we can either, it's one of those things where we're either geniuses or jerks. It's like, you're a genius because you came in full and you took a risk and maybe you move up the ranks, or you're a jerk. And it's like, why would you try that when you're already third, 3 years in a row, and you were like a couple points off of winning it a couple years ago? Like, why would you take a risk like that when you're that close and then you end up, 10th? Like, because that is definitely within the realm of possibility. It is not, yeah, it's not so easy of a.
Yeah, I think a lot of people on the outside looking in just think like, well, duh, why wouldn't you just do that? And it's like, well, there's a reason why we're a little careful sometimes with the keeping full.
Yeah.
I do think the judges like me a little better, more on the condition side in comparison to other competitors versus full, but we're trying to figure it out, and hopefully we can
It's tricky.
come to a certain, like a confident decision and see what happens.
But there is, yeah. So you guys see the behind the scenes. There is gamble in there. There is gamble in there. The safe play is if you look like you did last year and you got third 3 years in a row, like, why not shoot for that? That's a great. We're happy. We're both happy with that. We're like, hey, that's cool. But then there's always the what if, what if you did? And then there's the what if, okay, what if she looks different and fuller and they don't like it? That's a definite possibility.
I know.
Oh, you're just a little off when you're conditioning because you were fuller. Like, that's well within the realm of conversation. So yeah,
you don't want that to happen. So
tricky,
that's a lot to figure out, and we're just trying to figure out where our I guess our range of fullness is. I know Pittsburgh, they really like that look. But I do feel like I've brought that similar look to other shows, and other judges were just like, something's different. We don't like it. So let's see. I know we got some time to figure it out, and maybe we'll, throughout the weeks. I mean, I love my Japan look though. I really did. It's just making sure we're, in a safe range of fullness. So Jackie asked a really good question. She said, how did you get that big trophy back? So here's the thing.
That was huge.
It was huge. I can never do that show again unless I for sure have someone with me. There's no way I can do that alone, because this show in Japan, both the one in November and this, they give out so many prizes. I can't get them all back to my hotel room, like including the trophy. So luckily I had a client there, Jacqueline. Shout out Jacqueline. She's my client. She's competing this weekend too. Was there watching, and she stayed after to help me transport these items back to my hotel room. I would not have been able to do it without her, because literally I had boxes upon boxes of stuff, like in the venue and the host hotel, not close to where I could just scoot it. Like, I need multiple people to bring these prizes back with me. But the trophy in particular was a challenge. And I remember after the show, I was with Jacqueline and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I was so overwhelmed because I'm like, I don't know if I can get this stuff home, let alone that trophy. How do we get it home? Like, because it's an awkward shape. It won't fit like as a check on. It's hard to carry even as a check on. Like, because I have other luggage too,
and it's breakable. It's
breakable, fragile. Like, I'm there, for 2 weeks with Hawaii included. So my bags are already full. Like, my hands are full with my luggages. How am I going to bring this home? And I was just like, I don't know if the post system works like ours does. It seems like a really hard thing to do. So then I asked like one of the photographers of the show, was like, do you have any ideas how to get this home? So luckily the promoter is going to send it home. I left it at the hotel front desk and they're going to send it back home with me. But I was stressed. I was like, I don't want to leave this here. I won this. This is a cool trophy. I won it. But how do I get it home? So that was the answer all along. But I was stressed.
Yeah, it's pretty. What is that? 4-foot trophy? Something like that.
It was big. Yeah.
Huge trophy. Yeah. Deconstructing really that and putting it back together is a.
Yeah. Oh, that was another option. That's the only thing.
But
then it's like it was already nighttime and I didn't have any time to go out looking for
go to
tools. A tool store to get it. And it's like somebody to help me do it. And even then, where do I put these parts? That was an option too, but it didn't make sense given the time frame, because I had a seminar the next day. So I didn't have time to go to a tool store in Japan,
Oh, you know what? This is actually a good question because this is something you ran into. Problem too. Yeah, this is actually a good question.
Oh, that is a good question.
Yeah. Yeah. So, different scenarios based on, how hungry you are as well too. But I just carry it through until you get your sleep. Just carry your meals through like how you're eating it until you get your sleep is how I tell people to do it. So
Yeah.
if you're eating every 3 hours, Ashley eats whenever she's hungry type of thing. And let's say she's already eaten 5 meals, but she happens to be up for 24 hours. In that day, she eats 7, whatever. It's fine. It's still the same. It'll end up being the same over the long haul, over hours of meals. But generally, if you're eating every 3 hours or every 4 hours, just keep to your same schedule. If you do an extra meal, then no big deal. When you wake up, that starts your new day. And then you're back on schedule after that. So it's only generally 1 or 2 meals that ends up being extra, or 1 or 2 meals that ends up being missed, which happens too.
Absolutely. So, for example, Japan is 16 hours ahead of Pacific Standard Timing. So it's already another day over there. So when I was on the plane and transporting from Hawaii to Vegas, or I'm sorry, Hawaii to Tokyo, I had like a day and a half worth of food. It wasn't anything different. It was just I was up longer and I did what I had to do. So I had like a day and a half worth of food. And then the next day I just resumed back to normal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I guess with that, it's probably done with this one. Yeah.
I think we're done.
Yeah.
Oh, Jackie asked about visas if you're staying for a week or two. It depends on the country. Depends. There's no way for me to answer that without knowing the country. Some require, some don't.
Yeah.
Japan didn't.
So. Most of the countries are, a lot of countries, I should say, are pretty American friendly countries. So
thanks for liking us.
Yeah.
We like you guys too, everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, congrats again on a win. 49. Ashley's breaking her own records now. I don't know, it's crazy to witness and watch, but I don't think anyone's going to be able to touch that record. I think that's going to stand the test of time.
Well, I'm trying to upgrade a tardigrade status this year. So when I do that, let's see if this year, but just know that after Olympia, I'm going to Europe. So I'm actually doing some seminars in UK as well while I'm out there. So stay tuned. I'll give you guys some more information once it's set in stone, but I'll be in Europe too.
All right, Olympia, guys. So. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and talk to you next week.